It is our pleasure to be joined by the host of Dusty and Danny in the Morning on SiriusXM Radio. You can also see his beautiful face. You can hear his beautiful voice on the call for Bedlam. Dusty Dvoracek, former Sooner great, is in the house. Double D, what's going on, man?
What's up, boys? Kind of a big week around here, huh? Should be a lot of fun, man. I'm always excited when you guys give me the opportunity to hop on your amazing podcast. Congrats to you guys and all the success. I got to get some of that swag though. I mean, I see all that swag everywhere. What I want the Lehman shirt. That's the one I want. I want the Theodore with the what does it take? You just giving up the old number one with the touchdown. That's the one I want. That's pretty sweet.
Everyone say I look like I'm about to kick off, which I think is hilarious.
Absolutely. No, man, but what a special week this is for here in the state. You know, you guys are both from here. I'm a transplant. As a lot of people say, I'm not from Oklahoma, but Oklahoma is my home. So I know what this rivalry is all about. It's part of the fabric that makes college football so special. And, you know, I don't want to dwell on the fact that we're not going to have it. At least we don't have it scheduled for the foreseeable future. I want to celebrate what this rivalry's meant, what it means to the state, to so many houses divided across the entire state. I mean, we both have a lot of Sooner friends, a lot of Cowboy friends, and it means a lot to a lot of people. And it's going to be fact that these two teams are smack dab in the middle of a Big 12 championship race, and for Oklahoma, college football playoff implications on the line, Heisman Trophy implications on the line. It's going to be a lot of fun in Stillwater on Saturday, boys.
That's crazy. You've got two teams that have, been kind of working opposite each other. Oklahoma with the hot start, looking really good early. Oklahoma State, shaky. Now things have kind of flipped. Oklahoma, the last couple of performances after the Texas game, not nearly as strong. But Oklahoma State, once they figured out, let's just keep handing it to zero, they're on the rise.
They really are. It is. These two teams are in, have had different paths to get here, but it's been fascinating to watch, especially from Oklahoma State. It's amazing what consistency can do for somebody, guys. Like the consistent revolving door at quarterback didn't work the first three games. And it was the same thing at running back. Ollie Gordon had 19 carries in his first three games. What? And, I think the offensive line solidified itself. Dalton Cooper moving to left tackle. I think him staying there really helped a lot of things from the offensive line perspective. And again, like just consistency. I mean, Alan Bowman, he just kind of keeps getting better and better and better, which you'd expect the more you play. And yeah, it's amazing when you get the football to your best players, good things happen. Ollie Gordon is playing as good or better than any player in college football over the last 5 weeks. He's been incredible to watch, especially on film. And I think Brennan Presley too, like they weren't getting Brennan Presley the ball early in the season. I think he's another key piece of what they do, whether it's jet sweeps, which I hear is not very popular around the Oklahoma fan base right now. Well, watch out. I'm going to warn you, you're going to see some from Brennan Presley because they've had a lot of success with them. And he's just really good in space, guys. Like, I mean, he is quick. He is agile. He can make you miss in a phone booth. I think really, making it a point to get those two guys the football has changed the trajectory for Oklahoma State. And defensively, the numbers don't wow you, but they get timely stops. Fourth down, they're number 2 in the country. Like when they have to get a stop, they get off the field. They come up with a key takeaway. Brian Nardo's group, again, haven't been fantastic by any stretch, but I think when you can get off the field when you need to, it gives you the opportunity to have success. So Oklahoma, man, they're going to have their hands full coming into this game on Saturday. And as you guys know, as much and better than me being there living it, I mean, Oklahoma's got to find a way to be that team they were in Dallas against Texas. And, you got to be more disciplined, and we can talk game plan. And I do want to see them, Jeff Levy be more aggressive, take shots on this defense. But like, football is not that complicated. And Oklahoma showed up in Dallas with an edge, with an intensity, with the physicality, and it's why they won the game. I mean, plain and simple. And they have not shown up the last 2 games with that same level. And I thought Kansas had that against Oklahoma. I thought that was a difference in the game. I thought Kansas was a more physical football team. And I truly believe we're going to XO break down this game, and we could talk about the gap schemes they're running with Ollie Gordon and what they're doing. It's going to come down to who's the more physical team. And what can this staff do? What can the leaders on this Oklahoma team do this week in practice and in preparation so that Saturday when they show up, they play with a similar mindset, edge, and physicality they had in Texas. If they can get back to that, they're going to be tough to beat, and they're going to have a great chance to achieve their goals. If they can't, they're going to be in not just a dogfight Saturday, but more dogfights throughout the rest of the season.
Double D, looking at Oklahoma State's offense, clearly Ollie Gordon's been the guy, right?
Yep.
He's been the guy that's been making a lot of plays for them. But what have you thought about the way that Alan Bowman has run the offense since he became the guy there at the quarterback spot for the Cowboys?
I think he's been good. I wouldn't say he's great. He's only been sacked 1 time in his last 4 games. And a big part of that's the offensive line. They deserve credit. It's also him. He's got a really quick release. I don't know how much you guys have watched him. Ball gets out fast. And he throws a lot of stuff kind of 3 quarters. And, he has the ability to make every throw on the field. He can drop it in a bucket. He had a throw last game, I believe, 29-yard or 2 games ago to Jaden Bray. And then last week again, 29 yards over the shoulder, drop it in the bucket. Like, he can place the football. He can take shots. He's good in the intermediate game. I will say his accuracy is a little bit inconsistent. He hasn't just been phenomenal, but to me, he's playing with a ton of confidence. He's not afraid to take some risks, to take some gambles. It's kind of reflected with some of the interceptions, but I think he's been the perfect guy to lead this team. He's a veteran guy, and I think that as much as anything, his pocket presence, he doesn't throw great on the move. I think that's what you want to do if you're Oklahoma, is get him off his spot. But I think he is savvy within the pocket. He slides, moves, and can kind of feel that pressure and then get rid of the football very timely. So I've been really impressed. I thought going into the year, Gabe, you and I do Big 12 radio together. I thought going into the year, he'd be like Big 12 newcomer of the year, because I had a chance to watch him in the spring and in fall camp, and I was really impressed with the guy. I thought he was playing at a high level, and given the schedule Oklahoma State had, I thought he'd have a chance to have success. That's why it was shocking to me that there was a revolving door at quarterback to start the year, but he's playing good. I feel like the more he plays, the more confident he gets. And I want to give Casey Dunn a lot of credit too. Like, they're putting him in good spots and good situations. The RPO game is a part of what they do. I think he makes good, concise reads in the RPO game. And I think they've really found how to play to his strengths, and he's playing really good football for him right now.
How about on the line of scrimmage? A couple of weeks ago, I would have said that Oklahoma defensive line has a huge advantage in this, but they found something with their offensive line, ton of max protect, so it's hard to get to the quarterback. What do you see whenever the D-line and O-line are going to go banging up against each other? I don't know. We're coming off of a game where our guys didn't play great. We had a really, really quiet day, and they're chunking up the big numbers in the run game, so it makes you feel a little bit different about this matchup.
Look, they're much improved. They were not a good group early. Like, they just weren't. But they have been as of late. I think Charlie Dickey, he's been there a while now, came from Kansas State, and everybody's kind of been waiting to see this offensive line improve, and they've made great improvements. I mentioned Dalton Cooper, 71, the left tackle. Now, he's been banged up. He left that last game, and they had to slide some guys around. They had to move Springfield over to left tackle. They had to bring in Maturko to play right tackle. But, hopefully Dalton Cooper can go for them. But he's big, long, Texas State transfer, and he's solidified that left tackle spot. Joe Michalski, the center, 66, good, smart player. I think he's playing really good for him as well. I think, you can call it counter, this gap scheme. They do a lot of pull backside guard, and they get that fullback H-back involved. Oklahoma runs a lot of it too. and they run it in a variety of ways. I think it's really helped this run game. They'll go gun back offset with Ollie Gordon. And that's more of your traditional, the path of the back whenever you're offset. That's more of your zone. It goes kind of wider, kind of a field play. They'll also get in pistol. And when they get in pistol and they get Ollie Gordon back and he's downhill and he's hitting that, he's at full speed as he's hitting the line of scrimmage. His vision is really good. And I think that helps this offensive line right a lot of times. You know what I'm saying, Ted? Like they're good and they get on their blocks well. Not like they're just overly dominant, just blowing guys off the ball. But when he's hitting that thing downhill and he's got the vision, the ability to cut and make the right reads, he can make those offensive linemen right. Gabe appreciates running backs that can do that. I know, because it's guys helping guys. And I think
take it out the backside too, which slows the backers down whenever you know that he'll keep it out the backside, and it just keeps everyone defensively from overplaying it.
That's exactly right. So I think it's a much improved group up front. Oklahoma's going to have to play well. I wouldn't say that it's as good an offensive line group as Texas. I don't know if you could say they've been as consistent as what we've seen from Kansas, but they're playing well. They're playing with a lot of confidence. They've got a running back behind them that is as tough to tackle right now as anybody in college football. And I think that helps, right? Like when you got guys making plays around you, it lifts your confidence. I do think though, Dalton Cooper, getting a status check on him, something for everyone to monitor. Cause I think without him, they're not nearly as good. He's been a really good addition for the transfer portal, and he's helped this offensive line mightily.
Looking at Brian Nardo's defense, right? He comes in, he installs that 3-3-5 system. With what you've seen up to this point, Dusty, what do you think the biggest strength of Oklahoma State's defense is?
Their linebackers, 4 and 30. 4 is a dude now. Ted, I don't know how much you've watched him on tape. You'd love this guy. You'd love this guy.
He runs well, man.
He's not very big, he's probably 210, 215, Nicholas Martin, but he is a football playing Jesse now. He will come down and smoke you. Very instinctive, runs very well, just kind of out of nowhere. He hadn't played a lot of football prior to this season, and he's been fantastic. They get him involved in the blitz game, and even when he's not blitzing, just read and react. And he's downhill right now, and he tackles very well. He had in 2 out of 3 weeks, 2 17 tackle games. He's coming off a game where he had 12 tackles, 2 for loss, a sack, should have had a pick. Like he's really good. I've been impressed with Colin Oliver. I actually, early in the year, they moved him from more of an edge player to that second level backer. And I thought he was playing kind of slow. I didn't know if I loved it. I think you go back to like Arizona State, and I thought really when they just lined him up on the edge in the fourth quarter, he couldn't block him. And so to me, that's still where he does best, Colin Oliver. I think that I don't think he practices it a lot, but you're talking about first step quickness off the edge. Go back 2 years ago to Bedlam. He had the sack on Caleb Williams to ice the game. And when he was a true freshman. So I think that his ability to still be able to do that, but now he's actually playing linebacker well. Like he's learned, he's playing more, and he's getting better. So I think those two guys in particular really stand out to me. It's Brian Nardo defense, and they brought him in. It's that 3-3-5 that so many people are going to, 3-2-6, however you want to look at it. They play a lot with that center field safety. So a 3 high safety look. Kendall Daniels, another really good looking player for them at middle field safety. He is aggressive. He really comes downhill, inserts himself into the run game, and he's long and he's rangy, 6'4", 215. He can be a little feast or famine. I'm not going to lie. Like he'll miss some tackles. He'll make a splash highlight reel play. And you're like, wow. And you can see the talent. He's got to be more consistent. Trey Rucker, 9. He's a really good tackler, very aggressive safety. They've got young guys on the back end. This Cameron Epps kid's really coming along. Good guy in coverage. 8 McKinney, another guy who I think is just getting better and better. Both those guys are redshirt freshmen. So, they've given up a lot of plays over the top. And I do think that's we're kind of just breaking down this game. The secondary of Oklahoma State, the explosive plays they've allowed. They went on a stretch in 2 weeks where they had 6 touchdown passes at 30+ yards given up between that Kansas game and West Virginia. And that's just who they're going to be. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to say, you're not going to run it on us. And they're going to give you opportunities to challenge them in one-on-one situations. Oklahoma is going to have to be able to take advantage of that, or I think it's going to be tough for their offense to be able to exploit some of the weaknesses that this Oklahoma State defense has shown so far.
Yeah, that kind of builds into what I was wanting to ask, game plan wise. I guess my question is, has the Andrel Anthony injury been a bigger deal for Oklahoma's offense than maybe we thought it was going to be? Because since he's been out, it feels like we just haven't been very aggressive down the field. Possibly.
Great question for me to ask Coach Levy here today. We have our meetings with him later on this afternoon. I think that's definitely part of it. I think they have belief in Nick Anderson. Now, is he the burner that Andrel Anthony is? Probably not. I don't want to get it twisted. Andrel Anthony, that's a big loss. I mean, he was so impressive up through that Texas game. And I thought not just his take the top off vertical threat, I thought he became a well-rounded receiver. He was a better route runner than I thought, catching the ball with more consistency than what I anticipated. So I think just overall that hurts you. And anytime you lose, a true number one receiver, that's never going to be a good thing. But I still think if you're Jeff Lebby, I still think you've got to try to take advantage of this defense. I still think you've got enough on that roster in that receiver room that you should trust and feel good that they can make plays down the field. But I think it's a good question. And I think that my analysis, my answer to that is, yeah, I think as much as they wanted to feel like, oh, we're good, we're going to be fine, even losing Andrel Anthony, I think it has hurt this team's ability to push the ball down the field. And maybe that's changed the approach and the mindset of the offensive coordinator when he's dialing up plays.
Looking at the matchups in this game, I know how much film you watch. I know you always have your eyes on matchups that one team can exploit against the other. When you look at some of the matchups across the board in this game, Dusty, what matchups do the Sooners have to absolutely win to walk out of Stillwater with a win?
Well, I touched on one. I think they're going to have to create some plays down the field. I mean, they have to. I mean, Dillon Gabriel, 2 weeks ago, he was second or third odds on to win the Heisman Trophy, right? And part of that, it's his mobility, and part of that's his ability to push the ball down the field. So I think it starts there. I think that they've got to find ways to create explosives in the throw game. That's, to me, a huge key on both sides. Oklahoma State, a key for them is to limit those or negate them. For Oklahoma, they got to take advantage. Unless they change who they are, which I don't see, it's an aggressive defense. They're not afraid to play some man. They're not afraid to put their guys in compromising situations. My gut tells me that's going to continue. I also think, we'll see a Tyree Walker situation. Oklahoma running the ball, it's been hit and miss this year. I mean, I've just been waiting for it. So to me, the matchup it's actually Dillon Gabriel in the run game. I think that's an area that Oklahoma is going to have to continue to utilize. And that's me putting a lot on Dillon Gabriel's plate in this game to be able to create explosive plays in the throw game and then to be able to create in the run game as well. But I think that's what's got to have to happen. And I think that, quarterback run game, as it does a lot of people, it's hurt Oklahoma State a little bit at times throughout the course of this season. Defensively, look, I don't want to over complicate things. I mean, they've got to be able to fit up the run. And I don't know what you said, Ted, but I thought the tackling has been poor the last couple of weeks. And I think tackling in this game is going to be such a key. It's going to be, and I think it's gang tackling, it's rallying to the football. I think that, leveraging properly on Ollie Gordon is a massive point of emphasis in this game. And I also think I mentioned Brennan Presley, him out in space. So it's a two-headed monster to me. It's tackling 0 and it's tackling 80. Oklahoma doesn't do that, it's going to be a long day. I also think, they've got to create negative plays. Before last week, Oklahoma's number one in the country, 65 tackles for loss created. They had done such a good job, especially up front, changing the line of scrimmage, creating penetration, creating negative plays. Obviously, they blitz a lot. They utilize their backers or bring safeties down. But the defensive line in particular, they're going to have to create some negative plays. I think that if it's a 2-3 tackle for loss game for Oklahoma up front, I don't think that that plays well. They need to live in that 8, 10, 12 type tackle for loss. That's the style of this defense. And really, when they're humming, they're really good on first down. I think first down is a matchup and a key for this game. We always focus on third down, and it's a key for sure. But first down, can you put Oklahoma State in 2nd and 12, 2nd and 13, more predictable potential situations? If they can create negative plays on early downs. I think that's going to give them a lot of ability to have success.
Well, sometimes people don't like to talk about this, but I'm just telling you right now, this game will be decided by special teams. Whenever you have a tight game,
sure.
That's just how it's going to be. All right. And you can look at Oklahoma's game last week against Kansas, and that had a huge factor in it.
Yep.
It's hard to know what to expect from Oklahoma. We've been up and down by dramatic highs and dramatic lows. There hasn't been a whole lot of just steady play. What do you think of the special teams matchup?
Oh, Schmidt. I'm just kidding. They better you've got to be sound in the kicking game. I think where is Zach Schmidt's confidence? That's a question that I have. And I don't have the answer. But I mean, I think you're right. I think that you've got to have the ability to make field goals. They've got a kicker in Alex Hale who's had quite a bit of success this year. I mean, he's had a couple of his own issues, missing field goals, missed one, missed two a week ago. But overall, throughout the duration of the season, he's been pretty good. I remember, was it Jalen Saunders and one of these games, there was a Tyreek Hill punt return. So to your point, you're right. We've seen punt returns, kick returns play huge roles throughout this.
Field goal down there in front of us on the.
Oh my gosh, was that Honeycutt?
Honeycutt, he got blasted. The Jalen Saunders return and the Honeycutt. I think those were the same game. No,
yes,
I think
it
so. Was that
the only offensive touchdown was Blake Bell at the very end, leading that insane drive to win it. It's gonna be a huge factor, Ted. I think field position, just overall special teams. Punt average on the season so far for Oklahoma State's been really good. Like, they've done a really good job with their punt game, with their coverage units. That's been a huge area that they've really tried to hone in on. So Oklahoma's going to have to match that. So I think it's going in, I maybe give a slight edge to Oklahoma State just because they've been more consistent with it. But I think that Oklahoma, they've got more overall competitive depth. They've got good players on their special teams units. The punters, the kick game, it's going to be huge. Even the punt game for Oklahoma. Again, I don't know how much people want to hear about it, or you guys want to talk about it. I mean, it's been hit and miss. I mean, there's been some punts that you kind of scratching your head. Even last week. I mean, I'll just touch on it. I know everybody wanted to see them in that last drive after the Ethan Downs, or the next last drive after the Ethan Downs interception, be more aggressive. And then you punt the ball. You've got to find a way to be able to pin people inside the 20. Like, you can't punt the ball through the end zone. So, that it's field position and who can make their field goals. It's clearly going to be a big factor, but nobody wants to hear about that kind of stuff, Ted. They just want to hear about quarterbacks
not
and
till
wide
after
receivers.
The game, whenever they say, how could that happen?
No, you're right. But man, it's going to be a lot of fun, man. I can't wait for this matchup. I'm imagining the other part too, and I think it's a real factor. Like, we've played there. We know that crowd can really influence the game. It's still one of the toughest. It's not the biggest venue, but it's one of the most, as a player, I would say A&M was number one. Toughest place in 2002, and we played there, Ted, and got beat. We were number one in the country, and you played there in 2000. I was there as a recruit. That is the loudest, I think, most difficult road game that I played in 2002. But I would say not close behind is Oklahoma State. And it's the proximity of the stands with those sidelines. They're right on top of you. Like, say what you want. It's real. Communication is tough on the sidelines. There's no space. They're right there. When things are going well, it's fine. But if things are going bad, they're going to let you hear about it. And I think that as lively as they always are for Bedlam, I think we're going to see just an amazing atmosphere. I think we're going to see a juiced up, energetic Oklahoma State crowd. And that's just part of this. That's the added benefit that Oklahoma State gets at being at home. And if you think they're not going to bring it on Saturday afternoon, 2:30 in Stillwater, I think you're kidding yourself. So that's the other aspect of this thing. Momentum and that crowd. And if something doesn't go your way, Oklahoma, not allowing that crowd to turn one mistake into 4 or 5. We've seen false starts be an issue. That's one thing that I think that you have to look at. And you have to not concern yourself, but some of the disciplinary stuff and allowing that crowd to influence, whether it's a false start, whether it's something a little bit extra after the whistle. I think that I think potentially this crowd can have an impact and influence on this game as well.
Dusty, you're the man. You're going to be great on the call. I'll say have a great call, but I know you're going to be great. Not worried about it.
Hey, you know what? It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. Whenever we got the assignments, I was my crew is on cloud 9, by the way. Like they are like, I mean, it's the final Bedlam until, who knows? And so like there's so much here, right? It's the end of a rivalry. And I know Oklahoma fan, it's a rivalry. I don't want to hear, I know the record. I understand it's a rivalry and it means a lot to the state. And I just think what a unique and awesome opportunity for me, a guy that lived it, that still lives it, living in the state, that's played in it. I've got a tremendous amount of respect for Mike Gundy. I've gotten to be pretty tight with Mike Gundy. I think he's a hell of a football coach. And I don't think he even gets the respect that he deserves within his own state. And I think that it's just a tremendous opportunity for the final time to paint the picture of what Bedlam's all about, the implications this game has on the Big 12 race, what this game means to our state, and pay homage to it. We're going to have a lot of old looks, a lot of old flashbacks to some of the great moments on both sides of Bedlam. We're going to close the chapter and close the book on this rivalry. And I'm going to tell you this, whoever wins this game is going to have a direct path and be sitting in the driver's seat to go to Arlington and play for a Big 12 championship. And the final time we see this, until who knows how long, what more could we all ask for, man? It's going to be awesome.
That was beautiful. That's it. That's how we end this thing.
I love it, man. Great to see you boys.